another thing I want to highlight is that before reaching out or like before doing marketing, that all the startup really need to understand who their audience is. Like, who are they? What's their goal? Like, who are they reaching out to? Some people think that if my product is good, reporters at New York Times or Wall Street Journal will come directly and find me. And it's very unlikely if they will reach out to you if you send them an email, if that email pitch is like really mediocre. If for our business, for our industry, it's very relationship driven. You do need to have them, constantly, interact with you. You have to stay top of mind. And I think that's the way to build the trust for us. So that's why I host monthly events all the time.
Stephen Data Talk.
Greetings, my friends. Today, I have the pleasure to invite Aria to join our Stephen Data Talk. She is absolutely brilliant in startup marketing and a rising star in Silicon Valley. Now, Aria, can you give our audience some quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me, Stephen. Hi, everyone. My name is Aria. I'm currently a head of marketing at a fintech startup at Silicon Valley. Before my current job, I graduated from UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism. And I started, my profession as a journalist/editor at Business Insider, where I actually wrote a lot of pretty viral pieces there. So, for example, I interview a lot of thought leaders, investors, startup founders, and turn their story into very engaging pieces. And I really enjoy the storytelling component of it. And later on, so I would say, because I was at UC Berkeley, I was very much influenced by the entrepreneurship culture there. So I was very engaged with their entrepreneurship center, which is called SCET, stands for Sutardja Center of Entrepreneurship and Technology. So I took a bunch of entrepreneurship classes there, including product management and becoming a change maker classes. And then I also co-taught some classes with my then professor. So I had a great experience and also learned to mentor a lot of startup founders on product marketing, and also how to present themselves in front of VCs and also customers. And so I think at heart, I'm still a journalist. I love the storytelling, but I do feel that I think there's a lot of other things I wanted to do. I feel that I'm also very entrepreneurial. So that's why I pivot from being a journalist to become someone, an operator in the startup world. So currently I'm a head of marketing at a finance a startup. I do think that in the fintech world, there's a lot of legacy system in the finance related companies, but I do see there's a lot of potential to upgrade their software, upgrade their product. So yes, here I am.
Thank you so much. Your professional career is very inspiring. And I think it's very interesting that you pivot from journalism actually to marketing and so on. Actually, I have been reviewing and sharing some early YC lectures given in Stanford like years ago. Some topics are really interesting, like getting to the press, marketing, how founders should get to the front line on press relation management, etc. I'm wondering, how do you view the marketing function in a startup, and how should the different stage companies treat this function?
Thank you, Steve. I think that's a great question. I do think it really depends on, for startup marketers, they really need to understand, okay, what stage are they in, and also what their goal is when we're talking about marketing, right? I think before we start this whole marketing conversation, I think one thing to always bear in mind is that I do think that great marketing will not fix a bad product. So before we have this marketing conversation, we wanted to make sure, okay, so you as a startup founder has a really solid product. And second of all, I think for early stage startup, they don't necessarily have a marketing budget, or let's say they don't have a marketing department. So they have a distribution problem, but a founder with conviction. So founder actually can really make the difference in terms of marketing. I do think that marketing is the muscle that can solve their distribution problem when they are just getting started. So I do think in the beginning as a founder, you are convincing many early believers that your vision matters. So I think your marketing should almost feel more like journalism, should feel almost journalistic. Like, why does this problem exist? And why now am I going to solve this problem? And why I am the person to solve this problem? So you really do have to tell a really good story. So I do think at pre-seed or seed stage for startups, I think for their marketers, their only job is to find a message market fit. So for example, can you describe your product in a way that makes someone say, okay, I do need this. I need this product. I think that's marketing. That's really effective marketing. From my personal experience, I have seen a lot of startup founders at their early stage, they really struggle to communicate or kind of just articulate the problem they're solving. It's very hard for them to communicate that problem in a very crystal clear way. And I do think that's a problem they need to solve. And then once the startup has hit the product market fit, I think marketing becomes a growth engine. And that's where you can layer a lot of layers, a lot of channels, for example, like SEOs or paid ads or online events, offline events. So, but always they need to anchor in retention and also word of mouth. And then from there, for Series A, Series B, and beyond, you make the whole marketing department like professional, that you hire specialists, you build marketing attribution channels, models, and then you scale what is already working. And I think that's what all the startup should know at different stages. Another thing I want to highlight is that before reaching out or like before doing marketing, that all the startup really need to understand who their audience is, like what's their goal, like who are they reaching out to. So I do call this as a audience first framework. So for example, you as a startup founder, who are you reaching out to? Are they your customers? Are they your investors? Even your potential hires, or are you reaching out to tech medias to get some coverage? So, and each of them needs a different kind of story from you. For example, for potential customers, that they really don't care about your roadmap. So they care about how you make their life easier. So you should really show them how you can transform their life. Like for example, after using this product, here is how this company saved like 40 hours with our product, things like that. So you really need to give out the testimonial, things like that, to showcase actually the product really works. And for investors, I think they don't really need the hype. They really need the conviction. They really need to know that you know what you're talking about. They need to know, okay, this startup founder actually knows the market. For example, that you can tell them about your 10 cents on like your total addressable market, your serviceable available market, or even your serviceable obtainable market, like things like that. You really need to show you understand the metric and things like that. And then for potential hires, I do think that's actually very important. I think a lot of startup founders meet their potential hires in a lot of events, conferences, and I do think to reach out to them, and you have to make them understand what you are building. You have to make sure they know your purpose. You have to share your team's energy, your team's culture, and that's also a part of marketing. That's very important. And then if you wanted to reach out to media, that's a whole nother story. We can do another podcast on that as well. So for tech media, I think they are the curators that you have to shape your own story and then reach out to them, pitch to other journalists. There are so many ways to pitch them, but we can go over that later. But I think, yes, though, that's the whole framework here I have.
Oh, thank you so much. That is very informative. I mean, I have been talking with different founders before, and I think sometimes they kind of get confused during the conversations with different targets. Like you said, we needed to actually adjust our narrative to different audience. That is very insightful. Actually, last week you were in UC Berkeley sharing great insights about marketing and the tech PR. I saw the slides and they are truly amazing. I have learned a lot. So which key points would you want to share again? Can you distill some key points which also helped you a lot?
Yeah, thank you. I would love to talk about, for example, the first part, founder-led marketing and also tech PR. For the founder-led marketing, I would say because for early stage startups, the founders, they don't have a lot of budgets. Right? So you really wanted to do some founder-led marketing, you have to really be out there, writing your own thought leadership pieces and post on LinkedIn, post on maybe not just LinkedIn, but the platform that you think that work. For example, like Substack, like the long form newsletter, right? Or LinkedIn, Twitter, now X, and or even Red Note. In China's social media, like Red Note is actually very popular. A lot of startup founders have a lot of traction when they build their personal brand. But actually, yesterday I read this newsletter written by Wes Cow. So she is a leadership coach and she was on Lenny's podcast. So I really enjoyed her talk. So she does mention that when we talk about personal branding, actually, when you say branding, it's like they might have a little bit of negative connotation to that, because when you talk about branding, maybe it's like you're pretending to be someone you're not. But actually, what we are really meant to say is that we wanted to showcase this personal credibility, that you want to build this trust between you and your audience. So I do think founder-led marketing is a great way to do that. I do think this one founder who does a really great job for founder-led marketing is Marty Kosas. She's the CEO at Pylon. So Pylon is a B2B support platform. So I think what he did a really good job is that he posts very consistently on LinkedIn. That's first. And second, he really curated each post that he has on LinkedIn, and everyone seems so catchy. And then I think it's like a few months ago, he got featured in a very big story on Wall Street Journal about startups work culture, because like recently there is a saying that in Silicon Valley, a lot of startup founders started this 996 work culture, and they were super hardworking, things like that. But anyway, so he got featured in that story, and imagine Wall Street Journal writing about your startup, right? That's actually a big deal in terms of brand awareness or for SEOs, because having such a established media to write about you, it immediately just improve your ranking on Google search, like immediately. So that's just works perfectly for a startup. So I do think that for all the founders who wanted to study more about founder-led marketing, definitely study Marty Kosas on LinkedIn. He's amazing. And then I also wanted to talk about tech PR. Is that so? What tech media actually covers is first hard news, and second is soft news. For all the hard news are things that you cannot actually control. For example, fundraising, key hires, and product launch. Meaning that if you have a product launch, they launch, right? It's a matter of fact. If you raise like 2 million, 3 million, that's a matter of fact. And all those tech medias will write a piece about you, and yeah, you cannot control it. But what you really can control is the soft news, which means that you as a founder can actually be the thought leaders in the space you're in, that you can be the expert, and journalists will reach out to you for the quotes for some pieces that they're writing. For example, if you're writing about workplace culture, and then a journalist is writing about workplace culture, and if you are a expert in talking about workplace culture, that you have, for example, you have post a lot of content on it, immediately they will find you on either like TikTok, LinkedIn, or other media platforms, and they reach out to you. You hop on a call, and then you just get quoted in the pieces, and so that's how you build like this media presence little by little. Another thing about tech media, so there is a few misconceptions a lot of tech founders have. Some people think that if my product is good, reporters at New York Times or Wall Street Journal will come directly and find me. And no, that's not going to happen, because for all those reporters/journalists, every day, I would say they receive 50 emails or hundreds emails a day. So it's very easy that their inbox just got flooded. And it's very unlikely if they will reach out to you if you send them an email, if that email pitch is like really mediocre. And second is, so when I was working at Business Insider, I have a few sources reach out to me after the interview. They say that, hey, can I see the draft first? And so then you can run. So actually it's not how, media outlet works. So so sources are not supposed to review or approve the draft before it was published. So it's actually against the editorial standards. So that's the second misconception. And the third one is that a lot of founders will think that if they follow up with the journalist every few days and talking about, hey, I have this really great product, do you want to write a piece about me? And they follow up like very frequently, will show persistence. But actually, it's not the case. I think that actually that's a great way to bug the journalists. They would just think that, oh, you're being very aggressive, and that's not how you build a long-term relationship with a journalist. So that's the misconception. And I think what's very important for journalists to understand is that you have to nurture this relationship with tech media, especially I'm talking about the journalists. You do need to have a really good like a media presence, or you have your own profile, and then you reach out to them. And I don't think you need to be really, reach out to them very frequently, but you need to kind of establish yourself as someone like an expert in a certain field. And then when they think about you, when they think about writing the pieces related to your field, related to your space, they will think about you. They will directly reach out to you because you are the expert in that, right? So I think that's the effective way to build a relationship and potentially get a piece or, written about you by this journalist. But actually, also that's a long-term game. Building relationship is not very quick. It's not going to happen very quick. You do need to be patient. And to make it really, really practical for founders. So I do think when you are writing the email pitch to journalists, when you're pitching a story, you do need to have a very catchy headlines to catch their attention. First, you do need to study what they report on, what their story is about, and what their headline looks like. And then you kind of not like copy, but you kind of imitate and that kind of style of headlines, and then write a very concise emails pitch to them to say that, hey, I have this story, or this is why you can interview me, and why I'm the person you need to be interviewed, because, for example, I have this knowledge in this industry, and I can show you some of the pattern in this industry or some unique insights that there's no one else can provide. And those are the very valuable insights that you can provide. And I do think that the journalists will find it very valuable, so they will reach out to you if there's value.
I can just summarize some key takeaways for myself. First of all, we need to be consistent, either with our storytelling or our post. We also need to focus on the interaction with the journalist. I don't think that we just ask the journalist to publish our content or publish our interview just for one shot, but we need to nurture this relationship. Recently, I have been working on my own podcast, and I can totally relate to the founder storytelling. Getting closer to the audience is really helpful. Like now, all the VCs are doing podcasts, and the founders love to attend and showcase what they do. You also have your social media and podcast. Which guests have given the biggest impression to you? Or which episode do you think is most interesting?
That's a good question. I did interview some of the startup founders, and some of them are my friends. I do think that so my friend Ray, actually, he's an interesting guy, and he built this AI companion tool called Livia. And I think, so personally, I really like this concept, and I really like his idea. And I think he really has a good eye for the product design itself. He built this very adorable, cute little like companion called Livia. It's like a pet. And so you can talk to it, and this little pet will just, be there for you. This thing also remembers your story, so he can just check in with you frequently. So you do feel that there is like emotional support there. So I think he definitely has a good eye for the design. And I also think that he really has been very persistent, consistent in doing that. I think his story is great. And another friend that I interview, and also startup founder, is Quinn. So he's also my friend here in the Silicon Valley, and he also built something similar. It's like a AI social media network called Wonder Social. So basically, it kind of matches the people for you to connect with based on your hobbies and your location, etc. It kind of like Snapchat, but I think it's have more AI components to it. And I do think they both have this variety potentials. And I do think that if they keep on working on those products, I do think there can be a lot of potentials for them. So I hope for the best. And yeah, I'm here, being their advisors, sometimes as a marketing advisor. But yeah, I think those are really cool stories. Besides my own personal podcast, when I was at Business Insider, I did a lot of really cool stories as well. So I interview a lot of people who, for example, who quit their big tech job and then they switch to become a founder or doing something very unique themselves. And I think that's also very, very inspiring. For example, I actually interviewed Vivian too, and I think she's amazing. If you don't know her, that you can follow her content on TikTok. She's like a Wall Street girly talking about finance 101, teaching people about finance. But she actually earned tons of money when she was a trader on Wall Street. She also worked at BuzzFeed as a I think some in sales, but she does have this courage to quit the job and then start her own thing, which is much more successful, I would say, than her job. So I think that's also very inspiring.
My listeners, do not forget to follow Aria. As you can understand, she has tons of PR stories and the process of building PR and along the way. I think they are impressive. So another question, do you prefer on-site meeting or online meeting and events? I'm sorry I cannot be in San Francisco now. We can only do the online call. But some founders I have talked with shared with me that they prefer face-to-face chat, and this type of interaction could reach the sales conversion rate as high as 50% because the target audience is there, right? Do you agree this type of idea?
I think I do agree this idea. I personally also prefer on-site events for networking or like go to market. So I actually have a really good friend. I wanted to give him a shout out. He's a head of GTM at a very cool startup, Beka AI, and he's also a serial founder with 2 successful exit. And he really think that going to conferences, he personally told me that he enjoys going to conferences, and he think that building the relationship on spot really helps him getting a lot of customers. He also gave me a lot of tips for events, for conferences, what to do, what not to do at an event, like how to network and how to sell yourself. I do think that in-person meeting really create this like personalized activities or interaction. I do think that cannot be replaced by online meetings. And also, as you can see, I think there are tons of sales SDR, like sales development representative startup, getting super, super popular right now. But I do think the struggle that they have is to have this very personalized feel with their target audience. So for example, if you get a lot of LinkedIn message, like automatic LinkedIn messages on LinkedIn from all those SDRs, that no matter how personalized it can be, it still feel kind of not like personalized enough. So I do think there are some potential in developing SDR, but currently I do think all for in-person meetup. And by the way, I do think in our industry, so I'm in finance/real estate, to get all the real estate borrowers and developer together, the best way is actually gather them together in person, because for our business, for our industry, is very relationship driven. You do need to have them, constantly interact with you, you have to stay top of mind. And I think that's the way to build the trust for us. So that's why I host monthly events all the time. And if you're in San Francisco, I would definitely invite you to my events for sure.
It will be definitely my pleasure to join any of your on-site sharing events. And my audience, do not forget, if you are in San Francisco, do go to the events. Where is Aria? I can totally understand that San Francisco is super competitive for startup and for all types of talents. You have stood out as a very competitive professional and entrepreneur. What are the 3 advices you want to share with your alumni, friends, or our audience?
That's a great question. I think the first advice that I always have is build relationship with your peers. I think that's so important. So a lot of times when I mentor a lot of students, when I mentor a lot of student founders, or when I go networking, what I found is that a lot of my peers, they only wanted to network with the people who are senior than them. For example, when they go to the conferences, they just want to reach out to all the senior executives and to build a relationship. I mean, that's okay. I think that works. If you wanted to build a relationship, go ahead. But I do think it's very valuable to build relationship with your peers, because they are the ones who's gonna be surrounding, there's gonna be some people that you're gonna be currently working with, or you're gonna spend a lot of time with them. So if you build a really good relationship with a really good peers, I do think that's gonna change your life. It's gonna have a really positive change to your life, be it like professionally or in your own life as well. So I do think that it's very important not to underestimate the importance of building relationship with your peers. Like even your classmates, or someone, maybe your alumni, and someone who's maybe not senior than you, but I do think it's very important to treat them very equally. Yeah. And the second advice I would say is just give it a try. I would say a lot of times, I feel even till now, I think growing up, I have been very, how do I say, I used to be very risk averse. And I think that's how we are taught, because, in this Asian culture, and I think that's totally understandable. But I do think if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a founder, you do need to just go right through and just go build your things. And a lot of things, they can iterate, but you do need to get started first. You already reached the half of your roadmap. I do think that's the key point that I want to make. Yeah, getting started is really important. And there's not going to be like a perfect time for you to get started, but the best time like so far is to start now. And the third advice, I think it's great to listen to other people's advice, but you do need to have a conviction yourself on a certain things. For example, for a lot of key decision that I made, I mean, I definitely listen to a lot of people's advice and to make a very informed decision. But sometimes you just have the intuition. You have to just really trust your gut. And sometimes it just tells you maybe that's the right thing to do. And that's the right thing to do. Sometimes you do need to trust your gut a little bit. And that also, happened to me in my life when I'm making a lot of decisions. I do think that's the 3 advice that I have for startup founders.
I can totally relate. Sometimes you just need to give yourself a spin, and maybe everything will work eventually. If you go back to freshman year, like in the university, what would you try to change back in time, or you don't want to change anything?
Very interestingly, I studied broadcast journalism back in China. So I was born and raised in Sichuan and did my broadcast journalism in Hangzhou. And it's great experience, I would say. But it's so different from what I'm learning right now. I guess I wouldn't change a lot for that. But then later on, when it's the first year of my graduate school, I actually attended a lot of classes at business school and also other school outside of journalism school. So I remember when I was at the MBA class at Harvard School of Business, and it's the business school at UC Berkeley, I was having this imposter syndrome, and I was so scared to really make my voice heard or articulate a lot of things, because I feel like, oh, I was a little bit non-technical. And the girl who sit next to me, she works for BlackRock, and another student who study next to me, she works at Google as like a manager or director. So I do feel like this imposter syndrome. But what I would change is that I realized that there's definitely a reason that you being there, there's definitely something that you can bring value to. So I do hope that I could trust myself a little bit more and to be more assertive and confident and to make my voice heard and to make a change. I think that's something I will change if I go back.
Now let's talk about the AI tools, because now in different professions we use AI tools to do different tasks. I want to ask which AI tool do you feel most handy, and like when you make a marketing campaign or do a detailed task, do you have more flop moments or aha moments?
That's a very interesting question for sure. I think there's one tool that I really like. I think everybody talks about it. Yeah, it's Granola. If you, all the audience that you don't know what Granola is, so it's basically a meetings note-taking tool. So when we talk about note-taking tool, you think about Fireflies, you think about Otter AI, and there's just tons of AI tools out there, but why Granola? The key thing I do think that's really differentiate itself with the other meeting tools is that it just shows the founder, the designer has the taste. In the user experience, I have a tons of aha moment. I didn't know that they call their templates as a recipe, like the recipe, to make the dishes. And then a lot of people can upload different kind of templates as a community. So you can find the perfect templates for you to generate your content from. And also, I just think that the whole experience of using that tool just make my life so much easier. So I feel like I cannot work without it. And every meeting I would transcribe it, and immediately it will just summarize it. And if I want to ask follow-up questions, and it just make it so easy, like 2 seconds and done. They ask follow-up questions and then make the notes even longer, or it can do whatever I told it to do. I love the experience with that. So that's the tool I always recommend to my coworkers or to my friends. The other tools that I'm using for marketing, for example, for a lot of social media content, we use Capcut, we use Opus Clip to repurpose a lot of video content. So for example, Opus Clip, they can turn the long form video to short form, and it's very easy to post on TikTok, Instagram. But I do think that I always have this startup idea, but I don't know if some other startup founders have already built it. But I do think it's very important for the branding to stay consistent for each content that you produce. For example, I feel like I'm just giving away my my content, my startup idea, but it's okay. Now another tool I'm using of course, Haspa marketing, and it's basically a CRM. And although I feel like there's a lot of struggle building out a lot of workflow, setting up a lot of automation, attribution models for my campaigns, but I do think it's the ultimate all-in-one CRM for the modern marketers. And I also know that they have added a lot of AI elements to it. It's called Breeze AI. And I haven't really tried it, but I would love to give it a try to see how it goes for my future marketing campaign. Yeah.
So your startup idea, please go ahead with it. I think it's a very interesting idea. I think we can talk a lot more in the future episodes for sure. Final question. Can you share with us your best real case of marketing and how you actually managed everything through the journey?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, but also a big question. What I wanted to share is basically how I built this event marketing engine, and to figure everything out from 0 to 1, like literally from scratch. Before I joined my current company, it's called Uland, and they didn't really have like this marketing channel, to generate a lot of leads. Actually, the business model is super simple, but it just makes perfect sense. We provide fundings to a lot of real estate investors. in the United States, or whether you are doing flipping, or if you are doing ground up construction, we build this technology like AI-driven underwriting, loan origination tool. So we really make it super easy for people to get their funding fast. And we also make sure that their post-loan experience is also very, very nice, because we have a lot of loan servicing features to it as well. So in order to do marketing for ULAN, I think the challenge is that the audience they want to attract is either real estate investors or developers who wanted to build like houses, a lot of houses, right? So which means that we can definitely nurture the cold leads who are not necessarily investors. But the thing is that if they are the investors, they are the investors. If they have been developers, they have been developers, that you don't really need to nurture them. You just reach out to the most targeted audience and then build a trust with them, right? So I think that's very different from a lot of tech startup that I used to work with, because for B2B SaaS, that you do need to do a lot of cold outreach and do a lot of we call it lead generation or demand generation, to help all those leads realize, yes, I need this tool, I need you guys to do this for me. But for our industry, we don't necessarily need to nurture them a lot. So we basically just need to reach out to all those target audience and then make them our customers. So what is the best way to do that is to really need to create this trust, this sense of trust. So how to do that? In-person events. And in-person events is so important. So I guess what I do is that I need to identify, okay, what are the best channels that we want to do all those marketing campaigns. Then we realized that it's very different from all the other like sexy tech startup, for example, that you guys have a lot of social media presence on Instagram. Although Instagram is our a really good channel as well, but a lot of tech startup, they were super big on Twitter. They have a lot of social media presence on LinkedIn, etc. But for us, it's very traditional. We have a lot of real estate investors, aka our audience, on Facebook groups. In meetup.com, like meetup.com is like basically an event, like meeting, gathering website. And it's not the coolest website, but I actually identified there's a really great, a lot of group chats and groups to join. So we started to have built this kind of community there. So I built this ULAN Club, which is a real estate investor club where people can apply to join, and we have different tiers. So I do think that having that kind of community sense and have a tier plan for them really help building this trust and building this loyalty with them. So yeah, so that's how we get started. And then I personally figured out a lot of vendors, a lot of venues, logistics. So I personally go to like Palo Alto to figure out what is the best venue for our future events. So we got this very good venue in California Avenue, Palo Alto. So we use it monthly. So those are really good. And so we have people joining, but actually the key things about all those events is to really make sure that throughout the events, they really understand what you guys are offering. It's not just like a meetup. They have to understand, okay, you guys are the lenders, you guys provide the financing. All those marketing events need to tie to these key points. And then what's even more important is to have them, you have to track their for example, their email, all those registration signups and all the analytics, and also to follow up with all those sources, all those attendees, because it's the following up is the conversation that really matters. Yeah, so I guess that's how we build. I was a pretty successful marketing events campaigns for now, and also we can go like deep dive a lot in the future, but in each event, I personally love hosting events, but it's so exhausting as well. You have to make sure each touch point is optimized, and you have to make sure that, for example, that in addition, besides the attendees experience, you wanted to make it delightful, but you also wanted to make sure that in each touch points, you wanted to capture all their information and what their preferences are, and do they sign up or not sign up for your newsletters. So the analytics part is also huge, very, very, very critical.
This is Aria Marketing 101. I'm really learning from every word of it. I don't know about you guys, audience, but I feel like I just had the best marketing lecture of my life. You are really such an inspiration, and I really enjoyed every minute of our talk. I will always welcome you to come by and share more with us. So thank you so much, and maybe we'll see each other in the podcast in the future again.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Stephen.
Thank you, Aria. Bye bye.
Bye.